Another brilliant game. PSG completely dominating the first half. 1-0 up deservedly thanks to a great header from Marquinhos. Manchester City, a completely different side though in the second half. Kevin De Bruyne and Riyad Mahrez giving them a 2-1 lead going into the second leg in Manchester next week. Craig, let's start with you and just talk about the fact that if half-time I told you that City were going to win this game 2-1, it would be a big stretch because PSG were completely dominant.
Well, at half-time, if you'd have said to me City were going to play in the manner in which they did in the second half, I would have been surprised. That's how big a turnaround it was, and credit to them for that. That was the City in the second half that we know can perform. But there's so much to talk about for us and all the guys. A just quick summary here. Yeah, they looked a little tentative. Man City in the first half, a little wary. But a lot of that was down to what PSG did. PSG, they had the press that City normally have. That flustered City, that pushed City back towards the edge of their own box. When PSG had it, Verratti was coming in off that left side. When they didn't have it, he was dropping back. They were making a 4-4-2. They were making it difficult. And City looked flustered. But then that completely swung 360. They got further up the field in the second half, Man City. Bernardo Silva pushed up, De Bruyne pushed up, they got the press on, and they passed it so much better from a position of, say, 20 or 30 yards higher up the field. So the starting position in the second half was so much better, and their passing in the second half was so much crisper. It was excellent.
Why was there such a difference between that City in the first half and the second half, Jurgen?
Well, I think, the difference comes for the second half that PSG was not able anymore to maintain the same intensity and the same rhythm. And what they did really, really well in the first half with Mbappe and Neymar staying up front, they occupying the whole back line of City. First half, I mean, Di Maria played, I think, tactically a brilliant game in the first half against Cancelo. Cancelo is one of their key pieces there in the Man City team over the last couple of months. He was not even existent there. And then they dropped, as Craig said, they dropped into a 4-4-2 defensively with Verratti then going off and on the left side. But they had the physical edge as well. And then obviously they scored with a nice header from Marquinhos, and it looked all perfect for Paris Saint-Germain going into halftime. What changed then was that second half they dropped back, and even Mbappe and Neymar dropped back and tried to get the balls in their own half. In that moment, you really literally invite Man City to take over, and that's what they did. Manchester City took over the entire second half, dominated it, kept the ball, and created chance after chance, even if both goals were kind of a little bit lucky. I mean, the first one was a cross from De Bruyne. The second goal goes through the wall, which is, shouldn't even happen to you if you coach an under-19 team, that somebody shoots through the wall. That's kind of a little bit the sad side of it. But they deserved it. They deserved the win because they dominated the second half. De Bruyne kind of was all over the place. Gundogan got better and better into a rhythm. So two completely half times, but obviously it goes 90 minutes and Man City is now in a driver's seat.
Were PSG tired, Frank?
Yes, PSG was tired the second half, and I totally agree with what Jurgen just explained. For me, it was a so-so Manchester City. They were so-so consistently, where Paris Saint-Germain has been absolutely perfect the first half and very poor the second half. They lost their talent, they lost psychologically, they lost physically, and they lost tactically in the second half. We saw nothing anymore in the second half, and it's why City, of course, got more aggressive, but they kept on doing what they were trying to do in the first half that they couldn't do because of the press, of the way Paris Saint-Germain was pressing them. And that's the only explanation for me. And again, Jurgen is right when he said this. Manchester City scored 2 goals, which the first one was a cross and the second one was a bad wall. But at the end of the day, I'm more disappointed by Paris Saint-Germain than I'm impressed by Manchester City. I saw Manchester City really suffering the first half. Really, really, like I never seen them suffering this season. Because Paris Saint-Germain was perfect. And it's more because of Paris Saint-Germain being very tired by the fact that we didn't see Neymar anymore and Mbappe, and because the defense dropped, that City found maybe a breath a breathtaking and find a solution and won that game.
Manchester City showed a lot of character in that second half, Nedum.
As everyone's alluded to there, they were very poor in the first half, and a lot of that was to do with the way PSG were playing. But one thing which I've found with that team after watching them for the past few months, I think you look at their away record, and I think they've won 19 of the last 21 games away from home. So to see them play badly is very, very rare. And it made me think in some ways there was going to be a reaction. As big a reaction as came today, I wasn't expecting that. But I thought they were going to be better in the second half. And I think going in at half-time 1-0 down, you know, for City that might have been seen as some type of positive because, as everyone said, they were very much on the back foot. But they have a manager who can tweak things, who can try and calm people down because he's been there before. And I think he did that. And the performance we saw from City was, in the second half, was more of what we expected. But the other side of that coin is that PSG, as everyone said there, really did look quite weak and quite poor in that moment, which is crazy because most people, when they're 1-0 up at home, especially in the semi-final, you expect them to be able to carry on and just kick on from there. But I think it's credit to City, but, you know, it's the cliche, the tie, we're only halfway through this tie, and anything could happen in the second leg. But for City to have won their 2 quarter-final legs and to have won the first away leg in the semi-final, you know, that surely is going to fill them with confidence for next week.
There's two ways of looking. There's two ways of looking at the performances of both sides. Were City flustered in the first half because of the scenario of the semi-final, or because all of a sudden these guys have turned into bad players? I don't think so. Maybe the pressure was a little bit to do with it, but I think for me, more of it was to do with how PSG pressed the ball early on, and they really asked questions. And I don't think I've seen a Man City side as often for 40 minutes as deep as they were.
Yeah.
Right? Because normally City are so high that there's lots of space in behind. But they were pinned back for long periods. Contrast to that, the boys were talking about how poor PSG were in the second half, and they were. But again, a lot of that comes down to the opponents. If you look at, and I don't have the graphics or the stats, obviously, but I'd imagine looking at it with the naked eye that almost every Man City player's starting position in the second half was much higher up the field. And so therefore they pressed it higher, they won the ball back higher, and City and PSG, when they did give it away, and that was a lot in the second half, they gave it away nearer to their own goal. And that allowed Rodri and Gundogan in particular, and Gundogan just grew into the game as it went on. Yeah. That allowed them to pick all the second balls up, start the passing. That got De Bruyne into the game a little bit more. That got Mahrez, it got Foden into the game a little bit more. And that really allowed City to pin PSG in. And that then got Mbappe frustrated, it got Neymar frustrated. And to be quite honest with you, I personally thought PSG's attitude in the second half was atrocious. We had lack of discipline. We had players throwing their arms in the air. We had a red card challenge, and it was a red card all day from Idrissa Gueye. It was a terrible challenge. We then had the despicable sight of at least 6 or 7 Paris Saint-Germain players surrounding Felix Burks, trying to get Kevin De Bruyne sent off.
Yeah.
When it was never a sending off challenge. It was a yellow card. It was a bad challenge. It was a stamp on the foot, but it was a yellow. But again, we saw the Neymars and the Mbappes and the Marquinhos all surrounding the referee. I thought that typified their second half. City rose above that, were absolutely brilliant for the second half, 45 minutes. But trust me, I mean, the pendulum has swung, but there is too much in this PSG side to just say that's it, done. Too much.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.